Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to the first video from my new office. I'm really excited to start this new chapter in this new office space that I just got recently. Things are still work in progress, so you need to wait a little bit longer until I'm completely done with the studio so I can show it off to you. But for now, this is it. So in today's video, we'll take a look at the Mavic 3 and its recent firmware update. I've been getting a lot of questions from people asking me what are my thoughts on this firmware update, whether I think the Mavic 3 is now perfect. And unfortunately, the answer is still no. It's still far from perfect. It has massively improved, yes, but I still have some problems with this drone, and that's one of the things I want to talk about in today's video. Not only the bad things, also the good things, but I want to emphasize a little bit on the bad things, because if we as community speak a little bit louder, I hope DJI will hear us and fix those updates to make the Mavic 3 even better. So first, let's start with the pros after this new firmware update. I was really pleasantly surprised to see this new user interface of the DJI Fly application, giving you a better overview of all of the important settings that you need to tweak when you fly. So now you're just one tap away from reaching those crucial settings that you tweak every single time that you fly, such as your white balance, the camera settings, the ISO, the shutter speed, the aperture. Everything can be set individually, or you can set it to auto, which is also great. You can fly with fixed shutter, for example, and auto aperture, or vice versa. You can do a lot of customization from this quick menu, and this is something that I really missed before, and now I definitely like it. Something which I missed a lot before was the lack of D-Log color assist, which made it almost impossible sometimes to see what I'm actually shooting. Now with this new option allowing you to see how potentially your footage will look like when it's graded, it's a lot easier to see what's going on the screen. And the great part is that, of course, your footage is still written on the SD card as a D-Log footage, meaning that it will be flat even though you see it as a colorful one. So definitely a huge thumbs up from me on that specific change. It was much needed and I definitely like it, probably the most out of all the updates that we got. Next, we can finally use focus track or active track in D-Log color profile. Before we were not able to, and for me it was almost pointless to use these modes before, because I like to shoot in flat. If I don't have flat color profile, I just tend to just fly manually and just not use these modes. Now I can take advantage of them and I'm happy about that. Coming up next on the things I like from this firmware update is the new panorama mode, which is not exactly new, we've seen it before, but now we have it on the Mavic 3 as well. So I did a little test and it's really nice the way that the drone takes all of these shots together very quickly. It takes them in like 10 to 15 seconds max, which is great. And you can of course set your original photos to be shot in RAW, and the drone stitches this whole panorama in JPEG as well, so you have some options to use as well, which is great, and you have a lot of flexibility to use those photos as you wish later in post. The digital zoom has also been improved, and if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of the digital zoom. I don't find it that useful. However, now things are definitely a little bit clearer. You can see a little bit more detail when you zoom in, and here's a little demonstration of something that is written in Bulgarian. It's a sign of a hotel here in our city, and it's definitely unreadable if you watch it from a large distance, but when you zoom in you can actually see what the letters are, which goes to show that it is a great update on how the digital zoom works, because previously it was just very mushy, very blurry, and although you can see a lot of noise reduction being applied to the shot, so it's a little bit clearer, it's still, I would say, not really usable for YouTube, but it is usable for exploring. And finally, I'm not really a fan of those, so I'm just going to go through that very quickly, but quick shots and master shots have also been reworked a little bit, so they work a lot better now, and they do have more options that you can tweak, which is great for those people who use them. Personally, I just skip them always. Alright, now unfortunately it's time for the not so good things, which unfortunately I have been experiencing after this new firmware update of the Mavic 3. Hopefully, if DJI sees this video, they can at least try to fix those issues in a future firmware update. I hope we as community can speak a little bit louder so they can hear us and potentially fix those issues as soon as possible, because right now the Mavic 3 is still far from perfect. Starting out with something that I don't see many people talk about, and that is active track. Active track is a very aggressive mode on the Mavic 3, and I definitely don't like that because the Mavic 3 is supposed to be cinematic and smooth flying drone, but when you switch to active track, it turns into something else, completely different. It flies very aggressively, very quickly, it moves around like a, you know what, it looks to me like a noisy, annoying paparazzi, which is trying to circle you and take a shot of you every way it can, and it's definitely very annoying. It definitely flies very aggressively, not smooth at all, and unfortunately the footage that you get is also not smooth, and sometimes it's almost unusable. The drone is just all over the place. Even when you select a specific side where you want the drone to follow you from, it still circles around you every now and then and just makes some really weird moves that are not supposed to be there, in my opinion. When I tried this active track mode a couple of times, I always thought that it's too close to me. It's always very aggressively following me, and it's not giving me the chance to like move away from it. It's always very close to me, and that results in sometimes the drone losing you because it's just too close to you, and when you move, sometimes you make a turn or you do something that the drone doesn't anticipate, and it just loses you, and it then starts looking for you, then loses you completely. It starts hovering. It's just all over the place, and it's definitely needs a lot more attention, a lot more work from DJI, and also a lot more controls from us as users, which we can set up. For example, I would like the drone to be a little bit further back from me. I don't want it to be that close. I want it to be a little bit further away so it can show off the area as well. For example, I don't want it to be in my face all the time, like look at me, I can fly very close to you. I don't want that. Right, I think we spoke a lot about the active track. It definitely needs a lot more work. Let's focus on the next thing. Something which I noticed while I was lining up some shots is that the gimbal was doing some weird jumps when I was looking straight down lining up a photo. The gimbal didn't want to be there. It wanted to go up all the time, and it was really weird because I didn't see that before this firmware update. It was the first time I actually see this, and for the people who will say, well, obviously you have a heavy ND filter on the lens. Ever since I got the Mavic 3, I've always had filters on it, and I've obviously flown a lot while looking straight down, never had this issue. So now it's just a little bit jumpy. Sometimes it happens while you're not expecting that, and it's just, of course, it results in ruining your shot if you're shooting. If not, it's just like a random jump that looks a little bit scary. I thought something hit the drone. Luckily it didn't, but it's weird, and hopefully DJI can look into this. The next thing, which is kind of obvious because everyone is talking about this, is the extremely slow GPS lock. I tested that yesterday, and obviously before it was the same case for me. It's always been very slow, but when I tested this, it took me almost 4 minutes to get a full GPS lock so I can take off. It's ridiculous how slow it is, because on any other DJI drone, even the Spark, it was just like this. Here though, you will be waiting for a long time before it's actually ready to take off. It's super annoying. You're missing out so many shots because of this GPS lock issue. It's just unacceptable for a super premium drone to not have a quicker GPS lock, and I'm really pissed to just keep waiting on my drone to have a GPS lock while all of my other drones can do that in like 30 seconds. It's really annoying. And I don't know if it's even possible for DJI to do something to fix this issue. I sure hope it is. I'm not very positive about that, but yeah, that's probably one of my biggest problems with this drone as of right now. Final two things which I've noticed after this firmware update that are still not good enough for my usage personally, is that sometimes when you're going full throttle ahead, you get a horizon tilt, and especially if you see a straight horizon line where you can compare how it's supposed to be looking and how it looks in your footage, you will see that the horizon tilts a little bit, which is really not okay for such an expensive drone. And lastly, something which is obviously not a huge deal, but I would be very happy to see active track and focus track being available in 5.1K 50 frames per second. I would like to use the full maximum potential of this drone in all resolutions, not just in 4K. 5.1K would be great to have for active track and for focus track. and in D-Log, but that might be a little bit too much to ask from DJI. I don't know. So those are the things which I've noticed after the new firmware update of the Mavic 3. I do think the Mavic 3 is a great product, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like it definitely lacks some features, some more customization settings to make it work for us the way we want it to work and not how DJI wants us to use it. If you know what I mean, we need more control, we need more access to everything the drone has to offer, and we need less bugs, less problems, and hopefully more support from DJI. But let me know, what do you think about the Mavic 3 at its current state? Would you buy one? Do you have one? What do you think about the current state of the firmware? And are you enjoying flying the Mavic 3 yourself? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. I'll catch you in the next one very, very soon. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.